Flosstube, it's Lisa Smith, Kindred Stitcher. This is August, I think it's the 29th or the 30th. It's Sunday, and this is Flosstube 54. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you subscribe. If you're a regular subscriber, watcher, welcome back. I am filming today not at my house, I'm at a friend's house visiting, and isn't this fall decor behind me amazing? She has such a fantastic eye. But I wanted to shoot a video here while I was here because it's been a hot minute since I've shot a video. It's probably been a month. And I have just been stitching. I work and I stitch and I hang out with my husband or friends. And I just wanted to visit with y'all because I have a lot of things to show you. And in my last video, as part of my giveaway, I asked you to ask me a question. So there were some themes, some questions I'll group together, but I have a lot of questions that I wanted to share because you might ask the same question, might be wondering. So I'm going to start with questions. The first question was from Cindy Gaudet. I hope so if I say your name wrong, I'm so sorry. Would I do HAIDs or 1/1 stitching? So Cindy, I have one HAID that I really enjoy stitching on it. It's on Easy Grid fabric. And I have stitched 1/1. I do enjoy 1/1 stitching. I love tiny stitches, which is why I stitch on 40-46 count linen. Diane, do I stitch on 40? How do I stitch on 46 count? Do I use a magnifier? And Andrea Gormley had the same question. I do use a magnifier. I'm going to show you real quick. I use this occasionally. It's a daylight lamp. You can put it down like this. I just use it to help with lighting on my videos. It goes up, it goes down. I use cheater glasses more than anything. And I don't, sorry, we'll put that back on. I don't tend to use a magnifier per se, but I do use like a 2.0 readers glasses. I've been blessed with good eyesight for close-up, and I hope that maintains in the future. So Stitchin 304 and Becky Godby want to know, what do I do besides crafting? And, well, obviously the unsaid working, but I love exercise. And now I would say that right now I'm not on a good program, but I like to walk, I like to hike. I enjoy being on the water. I like being outside. I enjoy sports, and I like hanging out with my family. I like watching movies. I like camping. So I like to do all kinds of things. Rebecca Ray wanted to know about my craft room, and Dee Abrams kind of had the same question, like how long and big is it? My craft room is at the back of our garage, and we have a 3-car garage where you can't really park 3 cars in there, but it's got extra room. So it's long and it's narrow. It's probably 30 feet long and about 12 feet, 13 feet wide. And it's not, you have to go through the garage to get to it, but it's not outside. And let's see. So one of the most popular questions is like, how long have I been stitching and who taught me? I started stitching when I was in college, and my sister brought home a couple of little kits. I don't know if she gave one to me or if I went down and bought one when I saw that she had them, and we started working on them and we were hooked. And from there, so I'm self-taught. I've never taken a class per se, but if I have a question about like specialty stitches, there's so many resources online. You have YouTube tutorials or books. A lot of times the patterns that you buy that I've bought have had explanations of how to stitch a particular stitch. And so it's not, I didn't have, like, my grandmother didn't teach me, or, you know, that just didn't happen. But I tend to be resourceful, and I go out and get information that I feel like I need. And sometimes, you know, I find out, dang, I've been doing it wrong the whole time, or there's a better way to do it. So I certainly adjust and adapt. I would say one of the biggest difference makers for my stitching has been using the pin stitch. And Vonna showed how she does it, and there's other people that do it similarly. And I tend to be a little bit of a lazy stitcher with a pin stitch, but it's better. I don't want to stitch. I'll show it in a future video sometime, but I just go down on the lower left, up in the upper right, and then down in the middle, and then down the lower left and up and down in the middle again. So it's sort of like a figure 8, and it locks it in place. And I count that as my first leg. Then I just do my second cross over that. I hope that makes sense. If not, I can show you in the next video. Well, let's see. So the people that want to know about that were Kim Pembleton, Deborah Wheeler, Caitlin Britt Worm, Sarah Walker, Rebecca Sherman, Grandma Daisy, and Sharon Scheidt. So there you go. Hope that answers your question. Stephanie Hayashida, silks or cottons? Stephanie, it depends on the project. I like them both. Sometimes it depends on what silk it is. So NPI silks are not really variegated. If I wanted a variegated look with the silk, I might use a Gloriana. Or there's other brands you can use. Watercolors, Water Lilies by Karen are amazing. And they are sometimes used in Mirabilias. I'm working on a project right now where I've subbed in some of the Water Lilies, and they're gorgeous, gorgeous silks. I like cottons too. I think sometimes if you want a stronger variegation, using a cotton will get you a better result, in my honest opinion. T. Marbot, is it hard to switch 32 from stitching on 32 to 36? I don't really know that I stitch a lot on 36. I stitched for a long time on even weaves, and I stitched off and on a 32 using 2 strands. I have not stitched a lot on 36. I really went right to 40, where you use 1 strand. If it's a primitive pattern and I'm using a 36 1 strand, it's good for me. But sometimes you want 2, so I just don't sweat it. I'm not picky. I'm not really picky, honestly. I didn't think it was hard to switch, but that's just my opinion. And by the way, shout out to Washington Stitching. Nice to see you. Glad to see another Washingtonian. Cindy O'Brien, what's my favorite stitch gadget? I don't think I have it with me. There is a gadget that you can buy that has, it's like an eraser head almost, but it's bigger, and you can use it to go over your fabric if you pull out threads and it leaves a haze behind. So there's maybe threads of fiber fragments that are left in your fabric. I will try and find out. I'll find out what that is, and I'll put it in the box below. I don't remember the name of it. I got it at a retreat, but it's available to buy, and I love it. I can't imagine not having it anymore, especially if you're stitching with silks, because they tend to leave residue behind when you pull them out, particularly red. But you can kind of lift it up gently and then clean your eraser head off of the gadget, and then on both sides of your fabric, that will take the majority of it out. And you can also use tweezers and magnifiers to pull out any extra threads that are hanging behind, if you're that particular. Jen Patch, was the English Garden, is that being stitched with call for colors? Yes, Jen, it is. It is all but one. I think instead of parchment, I used linen, and I think it's General Arts. And I think the shop just didn't have parchment. So it's very, very comparable color. Sherry Eccles, what fabric would I recommend or use besides 14 count? So Sherry, I like 14 count. I like an 8. It's just very comfortable stitching. I've done that. I've stitched a lot of projects on 14 count. I like Jobelin as well, especially if I'm stitching like a Mirabilia, because it's soft. I used to go to a store in Portland, Oregon called Fabric Depot, and you could buy fabric on the bolt. So it would have been like Zweigart, or there's damask fabrics. But you could feel a difference between a Jobelin and a linen and an even weave. Just a regular even weave, maybe a Lugana. So I would say that I like a 14 count. I like an even weave for certain projects. I think any long dog I like on an even weave, but people stitch on linen too. Linen gives you that variability of the thickness of the threads in the linen itself, which is appealing. to me, and a lot of, especially like a sampler, but I like an even weave as well. And I do like an even. I like it all. What can I say? Jacqueline Liefried and Lori Bredlinger. What's the most favorite item I've stitched? I'm going to say gilet, which I'm going to show you pretty soon. It was amazing to stitch it. I had so much fun. And I think one of the things I really liked was converting the threads and choosing what I wanted to choose. And sometimes I stuck to my own conversion. Sometimes I changed the colors altogether. So I am working on the conversion. I'll post it on Instagram. There is going to be, like, of the 12 colors, I'll tell you what I used most of the time. And then there will be an exception list below that says on each motif what my exception to the conversion is. So I apologize in advance, but I was really stitching this for me, not necessarily to explain to the world. So I'll do the best I can. If you have questions, you can always ask me. Let's see. So another popular question was, where do I put all my samplers? Do I switch them out? Do I rotate? Terry the Old Needle Shop, Sarah Brunswald, Kimberly Tully, Mindy LeBlanc. Oh, I'm sorry. And Kimberly Tully all wanted to know. So right now, my sampler wall isn't up on my wall yet because I have almost painted the interior of my house through some vacations this summer and spring. And so you might think I have more than I really have. I maybe have framed, maybe 7 pieces, 8 pieces. And I have a lot of whips, right? So once I finish those, they'll go up on the wall. But I do have a shelf behind my dining room table above my buffet that I have my husband put up there that I tend to put seasonal projects on so I can switch them out. And yes, I do plan to rotate those in. I have a lot of Mirabilias in my craft room on the wall. I have one in one of the bedrooms. So I don't tend to switch those out. They're big. Mindy LeBlanc wanted to know, how do I stitch across open space? So Mindy, what I do is I will usually, I used to be a middle starter, and if it's a pattern that doesn't have a border, I still am a middle starter. Or if I'm trying to cover an imperfection in the fabric, I want to make sure the stitching goes over it. Oftentimes I'll start in the middle. And then, or if it's a sampler, now I usually start in the lower left and I stitch up. I try and get something on, if I'm stitching a border, like on the, now I'm going to use some algebra here, some algebra terms. So if you thought you were never going to use algebra after high school, I'm going to show you something. The x-axis, the one that goes horizontal, right? So if I'm stitching horizontally, I also try to stitch vertically, and then I'll count from there. I think it's easier if you can count from 2 places to make sure that you're accurate in your counting. And then I will stitch a motif, or I'll start stitching an area and I'll double check it to make sure that I am accurate. And so if I have to pull it out, it's not a whole bunch of it. I'm checking often when I'm stitching a sampler, and sometimes I'm off and sometimes I can fake it. It's fine. So that's what I usually do to make it a little bit easier, to make sure it's count twice, stitch once, right? IEL Crafty Mom. Do I use a magnifier on 40 count? I just use the glasses. Jan R. She saw my project bags behind me and she wanted to know if I sell them myself. I do. I sell my bags on Instagram, on my Instagram page, Kindred Stitcher Designs. But making bags is for fun. I work full time. And right now I'd say workload is lighter than it has been for a really long time. So I intend to have some bags up pretty soon in the near future. But once things pick up, sometimes I work 15-hour days and it's just not any extra time for that. A Stitcher, how much stitch time do I have on average? Debbie Rice and Michelle Alkett also want to know about that. It depends on when my work day ends. So usually now that I'm working from home, I'll go in, we'll eat dinner. Say I get done at, I'm usually done by 6 now. If I don't have to go back out in my craft room, that's where I work. If I don't have to work in the evening, I will sit down inside with my husband and I'll stitch like from about 7 in the evening till about midnight. And now that's not usually full stitching. Like I will watch TV with him, or I'm chatting with him, or I waste a lot of time on social media, frankly. And I am trying to be better about that. And I'll stitch on the weekend. Sometimes I have a whole day stitching because my kids are in college and they don't. It's just my husband and I. So it just depends. Connie Carter wants to know, how often do we eat out? We don't eat out hardly ever. Even before the pandemic, we hardly ever ate out. My husband is a really good cook. He cooks at home. I clean up, and it's a great symbiotic relationship because cooking's okay, but I'd rather be doing anything else, honestly. It's not my jam. So CC wanted to know chart software. Is there anything to help with charting something for changing fonts? And I use what do I use? Pattern Keeper, Pattern. I had to pay for it. So if you're just using something for changing a word or two, or maybe putting a verse in, I don't know. I would ask the audience, do y'all know of a free site or something that would be easy to use for everyday people? It's not Pattern Keeper that I have. What do I have? I have the one that's been around for a long time and it gets updated all the time. There used to be a pro version. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, I gotta hear my mouth. So here's another popular question. When do I hope to retire? 125 weeks from now. There you go. Andy Otero, Allison Ferberg, Leslie Hurley, Nevada Stitcher, and Cindy, I can't read my own handwriting, Mateen, all wanted to know. It's when I turn 55, a little bit after I turn 55. It's going to be probably the spring of 2023. Yes, can't get here fast enough, but I don't want to wish my life away either. So, Sandra Ware wanted to know if I would share the conversion of G. Leger. Yes, I will. Natalie Barté. Okay, so thank you for the comments on G. Leger. Natalie Barté talked about the sun with the cross that I mentioned in the last video is called a monstrance. It's to the right of the building, the chateau down below. And she said Catholics use it during communion. And then Birdie also said that the medal to the left of the chateau is an Ave Maria medal. And then the anchor that's on there is a Christian symbol. And also the bee was often used to symbolize Christ's personal qualities. So she wanted to know, maybe this was stitched in a convent school. And I thought that was very insightful. I'm with you. That's potentially, that could be the case. And that might be something worth asking Nicola Parkman about. So I might reach out to her. Or Reflets de Soie. Reflet de Soie. I think she's on holiday right now, but, and if you're looking for the pattern, I'm sorry, it seems to be sold out a lot of places because several people are stitching it, but it will come back into stock. Somebody asked if they could buy my pattern. I like to, if a pattern's in print, to buy it from a supplier or a store, and so that the artist can make some money on it. And to support our needlework stores too. Then Paula Dawn, she saw some fabrics behind me and she wanted to know where I get them. Oh my gosh, Paula. So a lot of those are laundry basket quilt fabrics, and I buy them from Edita Sitar's site oftentimes. But honestly, quilt fabric is not dissimilar to kits for cross stitch. There sometimes are limited runs, or it is so popular right away that if you want a jelly roll or you want fat halves or fat quarters, you need to be on it and pre-order it. So I kind of get them everywhere. And then Threads All Over wanted to know what my plans for the fabric stash are. They're planned for quilts. Quilts, wall hangings, table runners, that type of stuff. In green, how difficult is it to put in a zipper? First one was intimidating, no lie. And it was getting used to your machine and using that zipper foot. So, but the only way you're going to figure it out is if you try, right? So watch some tutorials, watch some videos, be familiar with your machine and just try it. The first one might be kind of janky, but you'll learn from it and it's okay. It's okay. Diane Mitchell wanted to know what frame I use. I have one, a Lapstand, and I'm going to go grab it real quick. Sorry, I knew I was going to bring this over and I forgot. Okay, so here's my Lapstand. This has, you can tighten these. These are loose right now, but I just sit this in my lap this way. My Q-snap sits just right on top, so I can pick it up and move it around and stop my threads in the back. It also has tighteners on this groove right here, so these come off all together. These come off, and I can fit this in my suitcase. So I do take it to retreats with me. Bonnie Sullivan on Facebook, her husband makes those. And I have her email address. I'll put in the box below. You just email her and you can talk with her about purchasing the Lapstand and any questions that you have. I love it. It fits me. I'm not a small person. My friend Lori bought one too. She's very petite. She's 4'11", and it didn't fit her as well. So she sold it to another person, and she's bought a little bit smaller Lapstand for her. Let's see. Oh my gosh, you guys are just, I've had so many questions here. Jill Bennett wanted to know, is shipping expensive from Total Framing? And Karen Macon asked a good question, like, what is the cost comparison? I found it's very comparable to shops that I have had work framed locally. But the thing is that the stretching is perfect, which is worth it, right? So you have somebody who knows how to frame needlework. And so I really enjoyed Total Framing. And Deborah Watkins, did I choose the frame from Total Framing? And what happens is you ship it, they give you some ideas. You can also tell them, I don't want mats, I don't want glass, which is what I said. I want it framed close to the stitched piece within a ½ inch. I'm looking for this type of frame or that type of frame. I have this kind of decor, and then they'll pull some out. They'll email you some ideas. And if you don't like any of them, they'll put them back and give you some more, and you'll continue to narrow that down. When they gave me my first choices, I liked them both. So we didn't have to go back to the well for more. Christy Martin wanted to know what my favorite food is. Pizza. Pizza's my favorite food. Joan Robertson and Melly Stretch wanted to know who my favorite designers are. I would say it's a four-way tie between Blackbird Designs, Heartstring Samplery, Plum Street, and Bluefly Needle and Thread. Wendy Saltino wanted to know when I was going to publish designs. Well, Wendy, I have several that are partway designed, and some of it for me is doing some cost comparison and doing the graphic artistry. I haven't done all the legwork that I need to for that, and I'm not ready for the demand on it. It depends on my work. So I would say in 125 weeks is likely when I will be publishing those designs, maybe sooner. So Lisa Reynolds and Debbie Thomas, Minnesota Stitcher, want to know the best place to buy Blackbird design fabric. It's now like out of print. You can't get it anymore. They're not designing. Secondary market. Keyword searches, usually the best place to find it. It's becoming more and more scarce though. So Sherry Bisbee wanted to know, do I use 1 or 2 silk strands on 40 count? I use 1. It's going to be 2 full usually for silk because it's thicker than a cotton strand. Kendra Souter, what sites do I go to buy my patterns? She's like, where do you find the things that I've never seen? I watch other people. So I do find things from other folks. I also look at Instagram, and then I go search for it. So like I said, I'm resourceful. I can usually keyword search things or use images from Google to drill into sites and see if they're available. Terry Lane, how do I decide to stitch 1 or 2 threads over 1 or 2 linen? So Terry, it depends on the thread count of the fabric as to whether or not I use 1 or 2 strands to stitch with. And it depends if I'm doing, if I have a big piece. So for example, Gilage is a big piece. If I don't want it to be a big piece in the wall, I buy a fabric that has smaller stitches. And I will usually use when that happens, I'll use one thread to stitch with. I like stitching on 32 count though too. If I have and there's something to be said about having a larger stitch when you have something with more detail. If you stitch on a tiny count, sometimes you lose the detail. Linda Meeks, where do I store my flosses? I store them on big rings on my wall. I have my craft room faces north, so I have sunlight but not direct sunlight, and it's on the interior wall. Okay, so thank you to E. Martin. There were a couple people who asked about what are the Christmas garden threads that I use. I couldn't remember them in the last video. They are, Carolyn Meadows asked this question, and so did Sophie's Girl. They're Thistle Green, Black Cherry, Old Gold, and Coffee Bean by Gloriana. Once Upon a Stitch, which retreat am I most looking forward to after the pandemic is over? Oh, girlfriend, I am looking forward to any retreat. I love the Midwest retreats. I was hoping to go to Arizona to the summer school class. That didn't work out. You know, there are great people at every retreat, so I like them all. It's really hard to choose. Adina wanted to know which was my first sampler, and it was a Teresa Wensler. I showed it in a few videos back. I think it's called English Cottage Sampler, but it was, oh my gosh, the back stitch on that was ridiculous. That was my first one. I didn't know any better. And I think I stitched that on like an 18 count Aida on a blue fabric. But I love the way it looks. It's beautiful. But boy, for our first sampler, I was probably not thinking very clearly. Jacqueline Boyd wanted to know if I have any grandchildren. We don't. Our kids are in college. They could have them, but as far as I know, we don't have any. Susan Musgrave wanted to know how I find time to sew. It's a challenge. I have to choose between the things I like to do, and sometimes it's sewing. And I love sewing. Like I could go in my craft room, and I could be in there with my music on for hours. And my husband comes in, he's like, "Are you ever gonna leave this place?" I'm like, "Nah, I don't think so." I don't know, but I don't think so. Gigi Stitches wanted to know what we were watching on Netflix, Amazon, or any other of the TV places. We just watched The Moonstone on Amazon Prime, and it is like 5 or 6 episodes. It's sort of a whodunit, mid 1800s whodunit. It was an interesting show. It was great to watch. And then we also watched North to Alaska with John Wayne last night. That was funny. So Kim Enjoys Life and Eva Islami wanted to know what my favorite holiday is or season is to stitch. Probably I'm a seasonal stitcher. Whatever the season is, that's what I like to stitch. I find it hard to stitch off season. So when it's spring out, I don't really want to stitch Christmas anymore. So I'm very much tied to the season that you're in. Kim Garrett wanted to know what drives my passion for cross stitch. Like, what are the methods and mindsets that keep me engaged? And I would say it is a great de-stressor, and I rely on it. I carry it with me, and the relationships that I have built with people online or people in my community around cross stitch, the blossoming, the reinvigoration of cross stitch has really carried me along. So the things that take me away is when there's a lack of understanding or compassion for other people. The drama, leave it at the door. I don't want anything to do with it. That's just such a small percent, though. There's so many good things that happen in the world that you don't hear about every single day. So I think the people of cross stitch are what helped bring me along. Lori Martin and Shemaine Taylor want to know the favorite piece I've stitched. And again, this is like picking my favorite child, but I would say the Bygone Stitches Christmas Quaker 2. I loved stitching that. It's the one that's vertical, not horizontal. I loved it. Running with Needles and Scissors, Sylvia, when will I repro that fabulous sampler. The first one I picked. Probably it's partway stitched. It's partway stitched and partway reproduced, but I'm going to restart it on some different fabric. And Sylvia, I'm working on it. That's all I can say. Right now I'm surviving. Clara Ariano, she's asked would I consider doing a stitch with me video or a sew with me video, and maybe in the future, Clara, but probably not right now. Creative country girl, Tammy Black, how many whips do I have? Girlfriend, that is like asking me the questions you're not supposed to ask. Do I worry about having too many, or do you? How many would I say I have? I probably have 30. I'm going to guess 30. I have not counted them. I know, you probably thought it was more than that, but I have finished some lately. Stitch Mania probably boosted that up to maybe closer to 40 or 50. Those are smalls though, and they'll go quickly when I get back to them. Sharon Morrison Mercantile. Is there a reason why I would choose no glass on finishes? Well, I did not realize this until I watched Carol Saltbox, but when you don't frame with glass, you can see the stitching better. So I tried. So now that I'm stitching more samplers, I've just decided not to put glass on them. And I mean, there's downsides to that. There could be a flood or a fire, and that could damage my pieces. But then I'll just stitch them again, or I'll stitch other things. Because really, stuff is just stuff. At the end of the day, it's beautiful to have samplers. It's beautiful to have handmade things, but they are not the most important things in life. Bernadette Ryan, if the cross-stitch police took all my stitch projects but one, which one would I keep? Oh, that is so funny. Well, if I hadn't finished G. Leger, that would be the one that I would hold on to. Yep, that would be the one. E. Kennedy wanted to know how far was it to the nearest store. We don't live very far from town. It's just a few miles, maybe between 5 and 10 miles. Kathy Harris wanted to know what my favorite retreat was also. It's all of them, Kathy. I do like the Midwest retreats. I especially like the fall ones. F&B Fab, where do I sell my project bags? I sell them on my Instagram page, Kindred Stitcher Designs. I only stitch and sell what I stitch. I don't take pre-orders. This is just for fun. Laura Ellis, can I come visit your stash? Yes, Laura. Let me know when you're going to be in my area. And Jamie Birch, can I live in your craft room? Sure, Jamie. I might charge you quite a bit, though. Nancy Call, what do I like to read? I like to read whodunits. I like to read light-hearted mysteries, though I don't want to see the gore and terrible things in the world. I just want to try and figure out who did the mysterious deed. And then Alex B., have I ever regretted starting a project and giving up on it? Oh yeah, Alex. In fact, I would say I purged a few projects last year. I gave some away on my channel. I adopted them out on Adopt-A-Whip. And I struggled with a couple of them, but honestly, once I let go, somebody else can have it. Like, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you use it as a dust rag. I don't care if you give it to your 3-year-old. I just don't care, because now it's not in my life, it's in your life, and you can do whatever you want with it. Brandy Stoker, what's the most meaningful piece I've ever stitched? Okay, Brandy, I had to think about this one. I have a little baby Afghan that I stitched when my oldest son was born, and he had, what do they call the stuff where you have too much bilirubin? Jaundice. And he had to go back to the hospital and be under the billy lights. And I stitched this Afghan that had a picture of a baby on it and a blanket, I think. I don't know. That Afghan, I think, is in a box of his. And I hope that it's like the moths haven't eaten it. But, I mean, your first baby and you're in the hospital and I stitched that piece. I stitched it nonstop until it was done. But I think that's probably the most meaningful piece they've ever stitched. Melody Hurley wanted to know, how do I lay out a quilt in my craft room if it's long and narrow? I take it into my house. Julie Connell wanted to know, what's the favorite place I've ever visited and what's on my bucket list? My favorite place I've ever visited is Scotland. I loved it. I want to go back with my husband and spend like a month there. And then on my bucket list is England. And we talked about going to New Zealand for a couple weeks, but my husband, he did some research. He says, we're going to need to go for longer. So in retirement, that's one of the first places we want to go, is just stay a month in New Zealand. Now, when I say that, we're not living in a 5-star hotel. Let me be clear, we're going to be conscious about cost, but that's a goal for us. Shelly Yuyoka, Sheila, I'm so sorry if I butchered that. What other handcrafts do I do? So Sheila, I like to paint. Painting is, I love painting a lot. Calligraphy, and then woolwork. So I like to try all kinds of new things. Like if you give me some weird project, I'll try it. Sometimes it doesn't look good. Sometimes it looks great. And then Teresa Cunyo, have I seen Betsy Morgan's Willing Hands book? Oh yes, I have that book, and I have a project out of that book that's, it might be in my sooner rather than later pile that I want to work on. Anne Marie, have I ever been to South Dakota? Nope, but I have been to North Dakota. Kathy P, who's my favorite sampler designer? Ooh. Well, Reflet du Soie must be up there. And I love French samplers. I just really have a thing for it right now. Brenda Keyes, I really like Brenda Keyes. Teresa Vanette, Shakespeare's Peddler. There's a lot of them that I like. Deb Choate want to know, am I going to StitchCon? I don't have plans to go right now, Deb. Maybe, but I'm not signed up. Nanette McDougall Dykes, what do I look for in an old sampler when I buy it? Nanette, I look for composition. I look for color, but here's the deal. Some people are purists. They want every detail, including the mistakes, charted. And when I reproduce, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to reproduce as close as I can, but I'm not going to include the mistakes. I'm going to try and make it user-friendly, because I don't want y'all to come knocking on my door when you're like, I don't understand your chart at all. So there's some liberties that you have to take, right, to make it compatible. But that doesn't mean that if the R is way up here because she ran out of space, I'm going to chart it that way. But I'm not going to, if the person stitched over 3 threads in one spot and kind of jacked everything up, I might try and smooth that out. But so composition and content are the first thing. And then because colors, you can change colors pretty easily, right? It's not, I'm really looking for the design elements more than anything. And then Laura, the pattern queens, want to know, do I prefer Santa, snowman, reindeer, or birds for Christmas or winter stitching? I don't know. I like houses. Houses, number one. And yeah, I like them all. I like them all. I just look for what appeals to me in a design, and usually a house appeals to me. And flowers. Honestly, flowers are my number one thing when I look for in a sampler. And my stitching home, in my last sampler, on the beautiful shelf that my husband built for me, there is a tiara. Where did I get that? What's it for? Well, let me tell you. I went to my first Mirabilia retreat, and they had done tiaras in prior retreats, and I did not. It was my first retreat I ever went to. I had no idea what to expect, but I knew that they had done this queen tiara theme one year, so I think I bought it thinking that I was going to need that, and I don't believe that I ever did need it. I think our first retreat theme was something, the first one I went to was something like mermaids or something not to do with a tiara, but I've got it there, so I just put it up there. Those are the questions, you guys. 40 minutes in, you had a lot of questions. I don't tend to answer questions in my videos, so thank you for letting me take some time to go ahead and explain some things and answer questions. Thank you for the great questions that you asked me. So the winners from the last giveaway, where did I put the books? Where did I put those? Oh, I see them. I'll be right back. Okay, so the first sewing book is Linda Meeks, M-E-E-K-S. Linda, I'll put my email address in the drop down below and you can email me. And then Julie Connell and Carolyn Meadows won the 2 Acorns books. And The Christmas book was Moose Craft USA. So, ladies, I assume you're all ladies. If you're not, that's okay. Just go ahead and send me an email and tell me your mailing address, please. Thank you for participating. I have this lovely book, Angels Remember. This is a leisure arts book. These are great books. There are a million patterns in here. And this one, I'm trying to think of what I stitched out here. I can't remember. If you would like this one, please go ahead and put a comment that says the word angel in it, and I will pick a winner. The next video, please don't write giveaway in your comment. And you have to be 18. You could be across the pond or out of the country too. I'll ship it to you. All right, now down to stitching and haul. Okay, so somebody in the last video cracked me up. She's like, I really just like watching her haul. So the thing that makes me embarrassed, she likes the most. Well, I got help for you today, let me say. But I also have some finishes. I'm going to start with this. Okay, so I have been rotating between English Garden and Gilles Leger. And I'll do a weekly rotation. And I call it my blonde and brunette rotation because Gilles Leger is very light and airy. And then English Garden is dark and mysterious. So the color palettes, I find that I'm much more engaged if I go through a week and I do one and then I flip to the other. I like that level of diversity from week to week. So my lighter one's my blonde, my darker one's my brunette. But sometimes you need a redhead. So sometimes what I do is if I find I'm not as much looking forward to the pattern of the week, I'll set a small goal, not a longer goal, and something that I know is achievable, and I will work intently to get that goal completed, and then I'll work at anything else I want. Those are my redheads. So the redhead this last week was the Cat in the Moon by With Thy Needle and Thread. This is an adorable, adorable pattern. I stitched it on a mystery tea coffee dyed out of my stash. And I do have an idea of how I want to finish this, and I hope in my next video to show you. Isn't he cute? He's so cute. I have a couple substitutions in there. I think the stripe on the hat was a limited edition General Arts. And I think the collar was a different color. I don't know what they are though. If you ask me, my answer is going to be, I don't know. And I did also start Bobbing for Pumpkins by With Thy Needle and Threads. Needle and Thread. Lots of people have stitched this one. Here's the lovely threads for this pattern. I always look like I haven't brushed my hair, is what I say when I'm petting my flosses. When am I going to brush my flosses? Great colors in these. Very, very, very fall oriented. This is being stitched on 40 count 18th century rook. I got this from Kitten Stitcher's site. And I love this color. It's beautiful. It's sort of it's a gray brown and it's really warm. So this is going to be fantastic. I do have a finish in mind for that. And I've got the finished object to put that on. Then let's see. So I did that for a while because I had worked on Gilles Leger. I worked on both of those Halloween projects. And I really wanted to work on some fall stuff. And if you look at the background, it's ready. It's time for fall, right? Well, let's see. Let me show you what else I worked on. Here's another redhead project. My beautiful redheads. This is Stacy Nash, Halloween at Hollyberry Farm. And on this one, I worked up, I'm not sure how far I had worked since the last time I showed this. I think I did this section at the top, the letters and some of those flowers. This is on 40 count Vintage Wood Smoke by Lakeside. Somebody did ask me what my favorite, I don't know why I didn't see that on my list of questions. What my go-to must-have on my stash fabrics are. I stitch primarily on Lakeside, and I love Vintage Pearl Barley. It's probably my very favorite. But like when vintage wood smoke, you can see how the colors just really just pop off the page. And I did substitute, I shared in a previous video, the substitution of colors that are used in this. And I will, when I'm done, I'll write it in the box below in my future video. So that was one of my other beautiful red. That actually I would call this a brunette, but she's being stitched as a redhead right now. I also stitched on English Garden. I got a mess going on here. English Garden by Samplers Not Forgotten. I love stitching on this. I guess I don't have any threads with me here. Oh, yes, I do. These are the threads. And there's quite a bit in terms of green in here too. You don't see it as much here. I think I have some of them in my Bitsy Bob that I'm using for this project. The blue is Peacoat. This is a great blue. And the greens are Garrison Green, which is kind of an army green. And this Grapevine. I love this color. This is the substitution. I used linen instead of parchment. I guess it is a week's. All the rest are called for. On here, what I stitched since the last time I had a video is this band here, this band here, and this band here, and then up the side. And you can see I'm working on the bird, the crazy little funny bird. And up, I'm on both columns because quite frankly, I like the diversity of color between the two. I was getting tired of stitching army green, which is like stitching white. But I love her. I love this brunette. It's gorgeous. So I worked on that. See, when you don't do a video for a month, it looks like you get a lot done. And then my FFO, you may have seen this one on Instagram, is Gilet. This is by Reflet du Soir. This is stitched on 46 count buttercream by Lakeside. And it is a blonde for sure. It's a light, airy piece. It's got a little bit of red in it that pops. I used all overdyed cottons. I have one silk that I used that I'll try and find a comparable overdyed because I just had it. It was the roof of the house. Oh, I love her. She's gorgeous. Now you can see the scale. This is 46 count. So if you're going to stitch this on a larger count, it's going to be a much bigger piece of fabric. So my blonde is done. And I started her earlier this year. I had so much fun converting. I really enjoyed it. So moving forward, what's my next blonde in my rotation? This one is a whip that I've had sitting for a long time. I don't know why, because this is the winter stuff. Laura, this is what I would stitch all the time. I guess there's a bird on there, but this is just me. And I don't remember. Oh, this is 40 count. It's a picture of this plus fresco. I love fresco. And so I have a small start on it. I will put this in rotation next week. It's got a little bit of a hint of like a little greens and blues in the background. It's very, very slight. And I cut it a little bit short because I was conserving fabric for another project. And so in order for it to fit in my 11 by 17 Q-snap, I sewed some muslin on the sides. So those are my stitching. Those are the things that I've worked on. And the 40, so in my plans, I'm going to rotate between English Garden and Winter Rose Manor. These two will be my focus pieces moving forward. I will also integrate some Halloween stitching. My redheads will come out every once in a while. And then this is a new start that I have planned. Once I finish the bobbing for pumpkins, I'm going to stitch this one next. Nightshade by Plum Street. And I'm going to stitch it on the same fabric, the 18th century rook fabric. So that's in my sooner rather than later pile. Whew. Okay, this is a long one. I usually have a half an hour in my videos. I knew with all the questions that it was going to be a longer video. So thank you for hanging out with me. And so I'm going to talk about haul. All the haul. Actually, there are a couple of stitchers that I wanted to shout out. There's Ymir. She is from New York, and her channel is Almond M&Ms. I will link her below. She is young and amazing. She is going to school to become an acupuncturist, and she stitches everything 1/1. It is incredible. Her stuff is incredible. So check her out. Black Ribbon Designs. I'm not sure if she's local. She's not in Washington. I love listening to her voice. She is so cheerful and happy, and I loved her projects. So check her out, Black Ribbon Designs. And then there's another stitcher. Oh gosh, I've got some more. I'm going to hold them for the next time though, because in the spirit of time, I'm going to have a list of people that I want to share with you next time. So there's 2 for you today. Haul. Okay, all the haul, y'all. I went junking one day with my friend Lori, textilist, and we were at an antique mall, and I picked up this. This is a vase. Look at this. It looks like a sundae almost could fit in there, but look at the top of that. The lace. It's glass. It's amazing. I bet you can't guess what I'm going to put in here. Maybe you'll find out next time. I got a shaker box for $10. It's got a little boo-boo here. It's got a little bit of a crack, but who cares? It's $10. I don't know who it's made by, but it's well made. That was a fortunate find. And I got this cool, I think it's a kerosene can. This also was like $10. Yeah. And this, it's got a good dent in the back of it. I love that. But I think I will do a, not bobbing for pumpkins. I have a different one for that, but this would fit on there, and just do a stitched one that's longer, and then make it a, wrap it around the can. But this one is just super cool. It's all rusty and crusty, and I'm pretty sure that's kerosene. It needs to be able to, in the old days, it would have to go into oil lamps, so it'd have to be small enough. I mean, you don't want to use a huge gauged pour spout. So those were fun finds. I also picked this up from, I'm pretty sure this is Hobby Lobby. Yep. So this, from finishing point of view, if you drill a couple holes here, you can drop something and finish below it. I do like that a lot. This was on sale. And I was at Joann's and picked up some lace trims. This I have, we couldn't tell if this was all cotton or if this also was maybe a synthetic in here. It feels like cotton. This will be a trim for a future project, and you can weave a ribbon in between here. I was looking at it for that purpose, and Lori pointed that out too. So there's that. And then another trim. I just love this. This is the softest little dainty trim. These were on sale at the local fabric store. I picked up a couple more Tilda fabrics because, you know, I'm keeping that stash built. Aren't these beautiful, delicate little, gorgeous Tilda fabrics? Some project bag fabrics. And so I hope to work on these and get these done quickly, but here's one. This is the outside. This is the inside. It's gonna be adorable. Here's another one. This is the outside. This is the inside. Again, super cute. And then, I love this one. This was the outside. Is that not fabulous? Audrey, I know you're looking at this if you're watching. This looks like an Audrey, except for the spider webs. And this is the inside. I mean, I feel like I want a quilt out of this, but you know, the way I'm making any kind of quilts these days, I buy enough for quilts. And then this one, oh, I love this one. This is the outside. And this is the inside. I've been wanting to sew lately. Really been thinking about sewing. But I do have some more cross stitch stash. I was stopped by Acorns and Threads on my way down here, and I got some Heartland and Wren fabric from Picture This Plus to stitch the berry bowl sampler. Lori and I are going to stitch that and swap parts. With my needle and thread, she just auto shipped to my house. I picked this one up. I think this one came from Threads Entwined, and then Acorns and Threads had the fabric to go with it. And then here's some of the called for threads. There's some that are common between the two patterns, the two new Brenda Gervais patterns. And then the Boo, you've probably seen this one. I love this. And she had the Blackbird fabric too. I'm sorry, the 18th century Blackbird by R&R. And then I saw this one. I love this one too, hands-on design. This is adorable. I picked up this from Threads Entwined, I think. And then the threads I picked up from, I picked this one up from Cottage Needle. I can't remember. And this is from Color and Cotton Pack for that with the green, crazy green fabric. I got that from Acorns and Threads. Then this, yeah, could not get this. Plus these boxes are amazing. What a great packaging solution. Brenda's so smart. And I think I just got the threads that go with it. And the little girl needle minder. Is she not adorable? I didn't buy the fabric because I seem to have enough fabric. And then the last Brenda Gervais from the fall. I got this one. That finishing might be interesting. Priscilla, I told Priscilla, she reminds me of Prairie Schooler. Her stuff is on par with Prairie Schooler. October, what's this one called? The truck. You're a Vintage Truck's the October one. I think this is the only vintage truck I have, but I like it. The Trick or Treat, I mean, come on. I can't wait to start this one. And then this guy. I love him. It's this is a Sip of the Seasons, Calvin and Trixie. Calvin and Trixie. All right, and then somehow I can't remember where I picked this up from. This one I think might have been from Acorns, and with a needle and thread. This one's an older one. This one is also, there's a patriotic companion piece. And then I'm all about the fractors these days. Blackbird Fractor, Plum Street. This one I got off a Kitten Stitcher. I can't believe there was a with eye needle that I didn't have. That was a previous fall pattern. Witch Pumpkin. Isn't that little ditty bag adorable? Scattered Seed Samplers. Lots of folks have shown this. Together Forever Pin Keep Drum. I think this was part of a kit that she had. And then Threadwork Primitives. Nan, by Nan Lewis. This is beautiful. Look at this one. Live Simply. I love that. My Quaint Ladies kit from Dying to Stitch. This is like, these go so quickly. I don't know why I don't stitch them the day that I get them. Gather by Pineberry Lane. And then GGR, or just Gigi, I guess. She is on the Samplers Through Time. I think it's Samplers Through Time Facebook group. And she had some overstock. This is a German group, German pattern. Kunst. I don't know how you say it. Wiedenberg? But look at this. I'm going to take this one out of the plastic. This is amazing. I cannot wait to stitch this one. Look at that. Look at this. You could just stitch that. But the crowns, the windmill, I love this. K&V 9902 is the name of the pattern. You might be able to find it overseas. I don't know where you get it. I just found it through her and sampled it through time. Then I went on a Blackbird kick because, you know, Blackbird quilt books, they sometimes have cross stitch in them, but you know, sometimes I like to just get them because I love the fabrics and I mean, look at this. Oh. And Lori and I are going to do some applique using the Applique products. It makes it easier. Just, they have such a style. I just love it. I can't give you a flip through on that. We're already over an hour. I got this one, a little flower. This is only this quilt. And then Garden Club, which has other in it, but look at that. You know, this year I was going to do some applique. That was on my goal for the year. I haven't done it yet, but the year's not over. So don't count me out. This is just gorgeous. It's a fun one. All right. That's it. That's it. I hope to be back in a couple weeks. We'll see. It's the best time of year. I think every season's the best time of year, right? I think we have seasons for a reason, and it's sort of that natural pattern of progression through life to enjoy where you are, take a minute to slow down, enjoy your stitching, enjoy the people you're with, have a great time, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Take care, everybody. And thank you for all the people that sent prayers out for my friend last time. Really, you brought me to tears. It was just, I appreciate the support. And if you can continue those prayers, I would very much appreciate it. Have a great day, everyone.